I have a bit of like a love-hate relationship with Exeter City because they were just so rubbish when I was growing up. Like, everybody always says to me, "Why do you support Man United? Why do you support Man United?"
Whoa. Have you hit that subscribe button? If not, what are you waiting for? Do it.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Total Sport video, and today we are joined by another Football Daily crew member and a man who's been here, there, and everywhere, even on mainstream TV at the moment, which is really great to see. Hassan and I are joined by Mr. Joe Thomlinson. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, lads. Not too bad. Very happy to be here. How are you boys getting on?
Yeah, lockdown life, man. Again.
I'm happy because I'm in Wales, so we're not in lockdown. So I'm happy.
Oh yeah, you're free now.
I can tell you're in Wales. Like drinking your milk, get that milk down.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, the morning milk does me well. So yeah. First off, mate, we'll just say, sort of, how are you coping with the current situation in all walks of life?
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? It's kind of like bearable, just about getting through it, to be totally honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of staying indoors and not seeing other people. I have to be outside. I have to be kind of speaking to other people, with other people. I hate being stuck indoors by myself. Luckily, I live with my girlfriend, so not fully by myself, but equally, just it's painful, isn't it? Lockdown's painful, but it's for a greater good, I suppose, isn't it? So you just got to suck it up and get on with it. There's nothing you can do about it. So just get through it, crack on. Other people in the world are in much worse situations than me, living in London in a shared flat and being able to watch TV and have fun anyway. So just crack on. How about you? How are you guys finding lockdown?
I mean, yeah, Chris, you've actually been here through most of it. I wasn't, so I was out in sunny Tunisia for most of it, so I was fine.
To be fair, the first lockdown brought positivity because that's where the channel came from. So that's the only thing that we can take from that. But yeah, love of football, obviously, Football Daily, working for them. We'll start all the way back at the start as a youngster. Where did that love of football first come from?
Just always love sports in general, to be honest with you, not just football. Big fan of cricket, big fan of rugby union. Obviously not rugby league, 'cause I'm not Northern. But yeah, always loved sports. Anytime I could have a ball in my hands or at my feet, I was having a ball around me. So always loved playing, was first and foremost where I think my love of football came from. I'd say I'm a better cricketer and rugby player than I am footballer, which is not hard because I'm a rubbish footballer. But equally, yeah, I think probably cricket was like my first love of playing. I was all right at cricket, actually, probably my best sport, and then football, and then rugby union after that. But I learned to love football by playing it. Then at the time, I was kind of in and around the Exeter City Academy set up down in Exeter. I'm sure your guys, viewers, know about Exeter City, not the biggest team in the world, but probably have heard about them in passing. When I was a kid growing up, they were kind of a League Two, but mostly a conference side, sort of Conference Premier League, as it was known back then. I'm not sure what it's known as now. It's had about 35 names since since being called the Conference Premier League. But yeah, I was in and around the academy set up there for a little bit, and then working with a development centre called Exeter Elite, which was like the rubbish version of the academy, basically. After I didn't make the grade there, just wasn't good enough. So I have a bit of like a love-hate relationship with Exeter City because they were just so rubbish when I was growing up. Like, everybody always says to me, "Why do you support Man United? Why do you support Man United?" Well, if your local team is Exeter for me, and Exeter were like a conference team. And when your local side is a conference team, you always have a Premier League side that you follow because, to be honest with you, conference football was rubbish to watch. Painful to go and watch Exeter City play Dagenham and Redbridge in the conference every week. So, yeah, my family supported Manchester United, so I just supported them off the bat. But my love of football really truly comes from playing it.
Absolutely. So, mixing over into like your career interests, and where did your sort of ventures into media start? Was it something you always wanted to do as a kid, or was it something you kind of fell into in your teenage years?
I don't think it's something I necessarily always wanted to do as a kid. I always wanted to be involved in sport in some way. I wasn't really sure how that was going to play out, to be honest with you, because obviously I wasn't good enough to play it at a professional level. But I suppose I really started to be interested in it when I went to college in Exeter, which is where I studied journalism there, and kind of found a little bit more of a passion for it there. I always used to pretend to do sort of commentary and stuff over games and send that into like the BBC and things. But equally, it was kind of just more of me being like, oh, this is quite fun to do. At college, I think is where I sort of seriously found a bit of a passion for it. Then went to university and studied journalism as well. So I would say, yeah, Exeter College for me.
Yeah, that sort of struck a chord with me a little bit because I remember when I was younger, I used to commentate over FIFA games and like record myself. Never sent them anywhere, but yeah, I always remember FIFA 12 on the Wii. That was definitely, and then on the PlayStation because I made the transfer over there. That was class. So yeah, from college, obviously, I saw on your LinkedIn we always do our research. Of course, we do.
Shout out LinkedIn. What an awful website.
We saw something. Obviously, you said you're a massive fan of cricket. Talk to us about Hampshire. What happened there?
So when I was at university, this was Southampton Solent is where I went, and they encourage a lot of work experience, which is absolutely key. And I think probably the biggest takeaway from university was experience. And one of the work experience opportunities there was at Hampshire Cricket, because obviously Southampton Solent University is very close to Hampshire. Well, it's in Hampshire, and it's very close to Hampshire Cricket Ground. So I just used to do like 2 or 3 days a week work experience more than anything, interning for the media department down there, making videos and stuff like that. Basically what they had done, Hampshire, is that they didn't have the resource to have a media department fully. So what they'd done is an outreach program to the university that allowed students to go and make videos around the cricket club. And then if it was good enough, Hampshire would share it. So yeah, that's kind of where I developed a lot of editing skills and things like that, first and foremost, and a lot of shooting skills, because I was able to then submit that work experience for like coursework on the university program, which is obviously helpful. And it also just means you get a lot of good connections when you need to do an interview for a bit of work at university. You can just kind of call up somebody you know at Hampshire or like the media department there. So it kind of fitted well. It worked really well at the time, and obviously I like cricket a lot. So yeah, that was the Hampshire connection.
So you had the more traditional sort of education route into the field in that sense, as opposed to sort of work experience, and then finding something. So you finished university, and what was your pathway there? Was it straight to Football Daily from there, or did you have a couple of other little bits in between?
No, straight to Football Daily from there. Football Daily was my first ever job out of university. Obviously, I had jobs like growing up, so like classic pot washer, like when you're like 14, and then worked in like bars and pubs and stuff like that when I was able to. I think 18 is like the minimum, maybe 17. I think you can get away with pulling pints. I'm not too sure. I think I certainly was doing it before 18 anyway. So yeah, that was like my first major job out of university. Football Daily was writing for the Football Daily website, which actually I don't think is a thing anymore. But basically like making like clickbait stories, a little bit Sport Bible-esque about like transfers and stuff like that. It was a new venture that Football Daily's parent company, Diagonal View, were looking into at the time. Obviously didn't turn out to be very successful because we don't have a website anymore. I didn't make much money, but when I was there, kind of was a good enough foot in the door that I was able to start editing videos and showing what I could do. And at the time, Football Daily was a much smaller operation. It was me and one other guy. So it was kind of worked out perfectly in terms of timing that I was able to help out on the video side of it. Website ended up just kind of tailing off. I just naturally, inherently moved over to the YouTube side of it.
Yeah, and to have sort of the multi skills almost in the more modern sort of form of journalism that you guys are doing. How much do you think that's sort of important in the modern day to be able to write, to edit, and to do all these skills?
Yeah, massively so, hugely so. I think if you're speaking to kind of print journalists of bygone eras, that they mainly focused on print, shorthand. Getting the interview, getting the news story. And that's definitely still a viable path. Like that's actual journalism. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't say I'm a journalist at any level. I don't break stories. I don't really tell stories, to be honest with you. I would say I'm more of like a presenter pundit. But having said that, even as a presenter, son of pundit, producer, the skills are absolutely vital, particularly editing. I think editing and self-shooting are the two key ones for anybody that's looking to learn. Those are absolute vitals you've got to be able to do now. To be able to self-shoot and to be able to self-edit are crucial. Obviously, writing skills help, and that's something I definitely developed when I was at university, because the course, any journalism course, will mainly focus on sort of classic journalistic skills, print, and online writing before it focuses on editing, unless it's a multimedia journalism course. So yeah, I would say self-shooting, self-editing, the key skills for any like producer, presenter. Even if you want to be a presenter, you've got to be able to do that, because nobody's going to do it for you.
Well, you mentioned there that you obviously don't address yourself as a journalist. This is a question I always sort of like to ask folks who work on the YouTube space. Would you address yourself as a YouTuber?
Probably not. I don't know. I've done it before, certainly. It's always a really awkward thing to, like, whenever like family friends or like family members are like, oh, so what do you do, Joe? It's like really awkward. I couldn't give you an exact title. It's not like, yeah, lawyer. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a mix. I suppose you could say YouTuber. Like, we do have a very successful YouTube channel, but it's not just me that does it. So I feel a little bit like dark on everybody else saying like YouTuber. Do you know what I mean? It's like a team effort to create that channel. It's not just one person does it. So yeah, I kind of just tend to say like presenter, producer, one of those two.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously the team effort there. How vital is sort of the team chemistry? We actually had asked the same question to Zach last time. How vital is the team chemistry to the success of Football Daily?
Oh, more so than anything else. More so than skills, more so than stories, probably more so than football, I think. Yeah, just incredibly important to have that team ethos. It's a real shame that we've lost the Football Daily office now to COVID, which is just like gutting, because Football Daily office is, as you know, you've been there. It's like, it's really great, sociable. Everybody's in there all day, just chatting about football, playing football at lunchtime, watching football in the evenings. It's kind of like not a classic environment of like a 9 till 5. People will be in there from 8 till 10 sometimes, just watching football, talking about football, arguing, fighting. Like, it's just a classic. It's almost like the best way of describing it is a university project that was making a lot of money. Is the best way of doing it, where you're all really good, like best friends, making videos about the thing you love every single day. So yeah, team ethos over everything. 100%. I'm sure like Zach and Doogie probably said the same sort of thing.
Yeah, they both did. I mean, as you said, from my own personal experience, it's something I always say to people whenever they ask me about it. It's one of the first things I noticed. It wasn't so much the experience that I was in, but more the sort of environment I was in.
Yeah,
it's super unique. And you know, you said it was football centric as well. I remember I think it was the second time I was in there. I remember we were debating something related to food. I remember you grilled me for not rating Yorkshire puddings. I remember it quite well.
Wait, hold on.
How embarrassing is that?
Stop the interview.
I'm sorry. Rate them. I don't rate
What's
them.
up with you? What is going on in your head, Haskell?
I don't know. I just don't like them.
Oh my God.
I got a proper grilling from Joe for that. Proper grilling.
Yeah, rightly so as well. And I stand by my point. I've made some horrendous points in that Football Daily office before that I no longer stand by, but that one I will stick by.
I'd have terminated the placements there and then, to be honest.
Yeah, so that was my experience at Football Daily, guys. I got grilled for not liking Yorkshire puddings. No, it was a great experience. It was a great experience. You mentioned obviously you're one of the sort of first guys in the office initially but at the first early goings. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced early on there? You know, being part of the initial project.
Resource for sure. That was the biggest challenge, 100%. So when I first joined, it was me and another guy called Patrick McKeamy, I think his name was. The channel was a couple 100,000 subscribers already, so it was in a fairly good place. But it had been built off of ripped manager interviews, stuff like that, where it was, if you go back and watch the very original Football Daily videos, it's really basic. It's sort of like Messi versus Ronaldo, 10 goals, bang, like graphic, no people on screen, and then maybe Jose Mourinho having a rant in a press conference. So it got to scale all right by doing that. And then me and Patrick McKeamy were there. Patrick left after kind of like 6 months. I don't think it was really for him. He was more of like a comic brain. I think he went to work for Adult Swim, actually. So then it was kind of me and another guy called Danny Timms. Danny now, I think runs the Premier League YouTube channel. So Football Daily is a bit of a breeding ground for some very, very talented people, actually, and has been over the years consistently. But yeah, I think the biggest problem, just to go back to it, was that resource. When it was just me and one other guy trying to get videos out every day was just unrealistic. So even when I started Football Daily, it wasn't daily. It was like 3 videos a week, maybe on one channel, which is hilarious. Now you look at it when with 2 channels, 3 channels if you include the podcast, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. The growth's just been ginormous. But back then, when it was you writing a script, editing it, and voicing it, and then getting out on the day was a tough, long process. Like it was some solid 14-hour days in the office.
Yeah. So growing the team obviously had to be a first sort of step towards where you are now. What were the sort of the challenges of recruitment, and what did you look for in the people that you tried to get hold of?
First and foremost, willingness, because I think with the nature of Football Daily back then in particular was just pure work rate, really. It's kind of forget your morals to some respect. We're just going to grind out videos. So willingness back then obviously managed, once you get to a level, you can start to recruit a bit more smartly in terms of, okay, this skill set's needed. We need a shooter. We need somebody that's a little bit more experienced in terms of production. So like when Chris joined the team, for instance, knew he had a very solid background in shooting and production. So he was always going to be like a very solid sort of producer for us, which is a skill set we didn't necessarily have in the team. He'd been to New York Film School, very interested in football. So I would say like we kind of started to get a bit more specific further down the line. But at the start, it was kind of like, who can just fill a hole? Just get anyone through the door. It's like work experience, internships, everybody just piling in. There was no real specifics of hiring because we were a wider company. We were just a small cog in it at that time. So we just were really after people that were just going to work hard and just knuckle down.
And you obviously mentioned the growth not so long ago. So obviously with that growth comes a bigger platform and obviously more eyes. And with that, the comment section and social media and stuff like that. So
yeah,
alongside that comes some not so nice comments in that same sense.
Oh yeah.
How did you initially deal with that when you first encountered that compared to now? And like, what effect did it initially have on you? Did it rattle you at all?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When I first started, I used to get so much shit, man. I used to get hate for days on Football Daily. And I still get shit now, to be totally honest with you. But it is what it is. You just got to realize, and you experience it so often that you just got to realize it's like the general rule of thumb is that people commented on YouTube videos are like 12-year-old kids sat in their bedroom. And like, if you were to stand in front of a 12-year-old and he was to be like, oh, you stupid, ugly idiot, you'd be like, okay, you're 12 years old, shut your mouth. But like, there's something about reading it from an anonymous account where you're like, oh, that could actually be somebody with an opinion I care about, when in realistic terms, it's not, and it isn't going to be. So you just kind of got to get over it to some level.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're never going to get through it. I just kind of, at the end of the day, stopped reading comment sections. That was the key for me. I just stopped reading comment sections. And then now I've kind of got over it a little bit. I dip back in and reply to comments on sort of We Need to Talk and Sunday Vibes and that. But in general, it's just a cesspit.
One thing I was going to mention is Zach pointed out a comment that he absolutely just remembered. And it wasn't a nice comment. The one he said, I think he said someone commented saying, if I see Zach Gelab in the street, I'm going to knock him out. And he said, that's one that's
crazy. That's a crazy thing to write on somebody you don't know's video.
Yeah, like, it's outrageous.
I can't believe people actually have the bottle to comment that, because they would never come up to you in the street and say that. Like I've had so many people come up to me in the street about Football Daily, and I've never had a negative one. It's always, oh, really like Football Daily, oh, enjoy your videos and stuff. Never once have I had somebody come up to me, even on nights out when everybody's been like pissed up. I've never had somebody come up to me and been like, yeah, fuck Football Daily, fuck Man United, and like have a swing at you. It's just like has never happened. So the kid who wrote that is probably 8 years old, and you just don't realize it.
I was going to say, have you got any particular comment that you remember, positive or negative, that like just stuck out to you? You remember quite well?
Nah, not really. especially not in the YouTube comments. I've just like long forgotten about them and long stopped reading them, to be totally honest with you. They're all just the same though. It's always just like, oh, you thick ginger idiot, or oh, how can you support Man United when you're from the south? Like, it's just one of them things, and just get over it.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on, Sky obviously acquired Football Daily and that link occurred there. So when that first happened, what sort of adjustments did you have to make personally?
I probably didn't adjust quick enough, to be honest with you. And that's one of my big regrets, I would say, is not adapting to what Sky is. And Sky is a behemoth of a company. You can't get away with things at Sky that you can get away with at Football Daily in terms of like footballing opinions, where you're just hammering people for the sake of hammering people. And now I look back on it and I think to myself, did I really need to say these sort of comments that are sort of clickbait-worthy comments about, I don't know, a footballer? And then now I'm a bit older, a bit more mature, I look back at it from a Sky perspective and think like, well, how are you getting away with saying that? Like, it's no basis to the argument. It's just ridiculous. And especially even more so now, say I've got to go and interview them. It's like, just don't need to be so much vitriol towards them, especially if it's let's say it's like a Liverpool player back in the day when I first started Football Day, I might have hammered them just because they're a Liverpool player. And now when you actually meet these guys, you're just like, oh, it's just a totally normal dude. So I think, that's the one kind of thing that I wish I'd adapted quicker, but I think I've certainly adapted now.
On a slight tangent, you mentioned meeting players. When you first started coming across that kind of opportunity, did you find yourself sort of getting starstruck in any sense, or was it you were just completely normal with it?
Yeah, the very start for sure. Used to get so nervous, so anxious about meeting footballers and interviewing them and stuff like that, because I was still very young, very green, and I would turn up and I would just. Yeah, I wouldn't say starstruck, but a little bit sort of in awe would be a better word. When you've seen them on the TV so often, it's kind of like, oh, wow, now I am really nervous. But you just kind of get used to it. You kind of get into the flow of it. You know that it's just a normal person. And then at the end of the day, they go home and they do a shit as well. So it's all the same, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Lovely example.
We're all the same people. We're all the same people.
Yeah. So is there, in particular, who's been your favourite footballer to interview, and who would be the dream for you as well?
It's a really interesting one. That's a great question. I think the dream, difficult one, maybe something like Eric Cantona, where it's going to be a fiery interview. You're going to get loads of good stuff out of him. It's going to be extremely entertaining from start to finish. It would definitely be a retired footballer for sure, because current footballers playing are so limited to what they can say. So maybe something like Eric Cantona I think would be a great interview, and one I'd be really excited to do. In terms of ones that I've done, I really struggle to remember. People ask me this a lot, but I just don't really. I don't remember how interviews went. To be honest with you, it's kind of once I've done it, I've done it. But yeah, Thomas Muller was a very funny guy. He stood out as a personality, a character immediately as soon as you met him. It was not a general footballer kind of vibe. Usually footballers come in, they're quite settled. Media responses. Thomas Muller's obviously not like that. He kind of sits down, slaps you around the back of the head, let's get on with it, joking around immediately. So, Thomas Muller, I'd say, is probably one of the funniest. Although most recently, Kurt Zouma at the start of this season. What a lovely guy, genuinely. Really happy, smiley, and just engages with the interview. That's what you want as an interview. You want somebody to engage with you, which is why kind of COVID makes it so difficult over Zoom. It's really hard to sort of get that personal connection that you would in the flesh with someone.
Oh, one I know Chris would like me asking about, Jurgen Klopp. Everyone always constantly says he sort of plays his personality up to the cameras, but you've got first-hand experience with the man. So what's he really like?
He definitely doesn't play up to the cameras. That's what he's like.
He's 100% actually like that.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, he's like that with me. He was like that with Smithy, like that with the cameramen. He's just a larger than life guy. Huge personality, genuinely lovely guy, and obviously commands Liverpool for fun. When he walks into a room, you feel Jurgen Klopp's in the room, especially when you're at sort of Melwood. When you're in the Liverpool training ground and Jurgen Klopp walks down the hallway, you're like, everybody suddenly changes demeanor a little bit. They know that he's coming. So, yeah, he's obviously very powerful at Liverpool, rightly so. What a manager. And, yeah, what a lovely guy.
When you said larger than life, he's literally larger than life too, isn't he? I've
Huge bloke. Oh, my days. Couldn't believe it when I met him. He's massive. He's
6'4", isn't he?
6'3".
Yeah, he's
huge.
Yeah, but it is cool actually because I think when we get on the subject of like dream ones, I don't know. It has to probably be Zidane.
Zidane would be my absolute dream, even though I can't speak a word of French. So yeah, bit screwed there, really.
I don't know. I'd be tossed up between Klopp and Van Dijk because I just want to know what Van Dijk smells like.
I'm sure you want Klopp, honestly. For sure. Like Van Dijk will be because he's a footballer at the moment. Current footballer will be walls up guarded 100%.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know about Zidane has. I've got to say,
it's just a fanboy thing,
man.
I
know, but I would have always thought the same with like Paul Scholes. Like I would love to meet Paul Scholes. Would I love to interview Paul Scholes? Probably not.
No. If you could ask me for a player, though, I think I always say probably be Zlatan Ibrahimovic just for the fun of it. So I just think he'd just be an absolute laugh to interview.
Although I have heard that Cristiano Ronaldo is absolutely fantastic, like loveliest
I can
guy.
Believe that.
Apparently a really genuinely nice guy. Can't make enough time for you. So I think Cristiano Ronaldo would be pretty high on my list.
I mean, Piers Morgan's interview with him, I still put it up there. It's probably one of the most recent ones that I've seen, at least. It's quite high up there in terms of the best ones.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say, my dream interview's Piers Morgan. I was like,
no, you must be mad. You must be mad. I'm not a fan.
Moving forward, so we talked about the Football Daily Sky crossover.
Mm-hmm.
That's also seen you and a couple of others crossover onto Sky as well. So how has that been for you, presenting the Football Social and stuff like that?
Yeah, wicked. It's a lot of fun. It's a real change and it's a real learning curve to understand how linear TV works, because it's very different to YouTube where you can just make a video. A lot of planning, a lot of thought goes into it behind the scenes. And it's amazing to be involved in that day to day, just learning from some really talented people. Obviously, Smithy's been around for so long doing this that he's such a good person to learn off of and kind of understand. And then behind the scenes, you get to work with some incredibly experienced TV producers and directors that have worked in Premier League and Champions League and with huge names. So just try and pick their brains at every opportunity, because they're obviously much more knowledgeable than I am about this sort of stuff. It's class, to be honest with you. It is very, very good.
Do you have to go through the makeup phase with that as well? Do you have to touch your
Yeah. I had to do my first time in the makeup chair. I had to do that. Yeah, it's interesting because at first you're embarrassed and then you quickly realize like this is just somebody's job. So like they've had thousands of people sat in that chair. Like there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was that experience like when you first had to do that? I bet you were sat there thinking, I can't believe I'm having makeup put on me right now. Yeah,
well, the first time I did it, I think it was on like Football Social when it was kind of me, maybe like Hamill and Pat or something like that, or Dave, and we was like getting it done. It was like obviously hammering each other, but the more you get used to it, the more you just like sit there and get it done. Because especially on Saturday Social when it's 7 a.m. and I'm like tired, just literally just sit there, and like the poor makeup artist has been up probably since 3 doing Sky Sports News' makeup. So it's like, yeah, come on, let's just crack on with it.
Well, you mentioned some of the FD guys there. Drop the goss. Who was the most naturally like comfortable sitting in that chair the first time?
Oh, Hamill. 100%,
he loves it.
100%, Chris. Yeah, definitely, yeah. Chris Hamill. But he's quite a well-pruned guy, obviously, and I think he also found it quite easy to make light of it. Whereas like when I was like there with Dave Jackson, he's obviously he's a bit more old school, and he's a bit more Hounslow estate. So the makeup just doesn't come as natural to him. It's funny.
It's brilliant. It's true. We did record with Ham on quite a while ago, and unfortunately that file corrupted. But I do remember him being a few minutes late because he was doing his hair. So
he's always late because he's doing his hair. Everything I've ever shot with Hamill, he's 5 minutes late because he's sorting his hair out.
He actually has a box in the office with his hair products, and I do remember seeing it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. So on the topic, you know, we had a go at Haas last time for Yorkshire Puddings. What's your most controversial food opinion?
Oh my God! Wow, spring that on me. I really don't like mushrooms. It's not that controversial though, but like obviously gopping food, absolute nonsense, disgraceful food. I don't have many controversial food opinions though, because I'll eat pretty much anything that's not a mushroom.
That's not bad then.
Yeah, I literally will eat anything and everything that doesn't come out of the ground like that in woods with dogs pissing on it.
I do agree with that. Mushrooms look gross. They taste gross.
I quite like mushrooms, so
They're just
in the
gross.
bin, Chris. No,
mate, it's top quality English breakfast. Got to have mushrooms with it.
No, they
not for me.
leak that gross ass juice out of them and stuff. It's disgusting. Absolutely gross. Absolutely gross. Anyway, back to the serious stuff.
Sorry, I had to pop that one in.
Yeah, that was fair enough. So it's a little over a year removed since KSI versus Logan 2, and I know you're on the coverage for that. What was that experience like, and how the hell did that come about? How did you go from
that was one of the best experiences of my life, man. That was one of the best experiences of my life for sure. So basically, the reason that I managed to get the call up, I suppose you would call it, is because Saturday Social is a social media focused show. Me and Smithy obviously already work at Sky. KSI, Logan Paul, social media kind of fight. So I guess that was where they saw the crossover there, because the boxing team at Sky, they're amazing at what they do, and they're so detailed, and they just, as you'd expect, don't know the most about KSI, Logan Paul. Whereas maybe me and Smithy knew a little bit more. So we managed to get over to LA with our producer. Shoot Saturday Social from LA was the first point of call, because it was such a big build up around Sky. They're just trying to hype up that fight. That was going to give them a little bit of PR boost there. So they were going to get us out there, do Saturday Social on the ground from LA. And then we go along to the fight. Smithy was also going to give like color commentary from a social media standpoint, because he's obviously at Sky as a social media kind of presenter almost, I suppose you'd say. And then I was lucky enough to be out there too. They needed somebody to do the celebrity interviews, which is something I've never done before, and really tough, to be honest with you, because you're effectively, you guys, I'm sure, have both vox popped in the street. When you're trying to get people.
It's a grim experience. I hate it.
Grim experience. It's even grimmer when you're trying to get celebrities to do it, because they do not have the time for you, the patience for you. Like, they've got no interest in you. Whereas at least people on the street are like, oh, a camera. Like, I'm kind of like intrigued. What could this be about? So yeah, I was kind of tasked with backstage celebrity interviews, which is fine. I got quite a few in the can. Obviously the Bieber one, and like interviewed a dog, which was a bit of a stitch up, to be honest with you. That was a bit of I was stitched up.
How did that go?
Because basically, so what happened is the boxing presenter backstage, amazing guy, lovely guy called Andy. He does a lot of the interviews. So what he does is he's the guy in the ring afterwards and is like, oh, how do you think that went? Who's your next fight going to be against? Blah, blah, blah. So he's a pretty big name in boxing. So he was in the dressing rooms with the fighters being like, oh, yeah, how you feeling pre-fight? Blah, whatever. And one of the fighters, I think it was Nikita, he had like a pet dog or something that was there. And this dog has like 2 million Instagram followers or whatever. And so he was like seen as like a social media dog. So Andy was like, Joe, get in here, do this interview. And obviously Andy's like such like a senior name, awesome presenter, awesome reporter. I was just like, yeah, well, I'll just do whatever to impress him. Sat down, did the interview, and obviously got absolutely hammered by every interviewing a dog, but it is what it is. Yeah, the experience as a whole was just ridiculous. Just to be in like LA, it's the first time I've been in LA before. Obviously going to the Staples Center, fight week, just everything about it was amazing. So very, very fortunate to be given that opportunity.
What were your thoughts on all of that sort of thing as a whole, you know, YouTube boxing and that kind of thing? Like, I know a lot of people turn their nose up at it, mainly the boxing purists. They were like, this isn't fighting. Yeah. What is this? What were your honest thoughts on it as someone that obviously, you know, you've got an interest in sport anyway, but someone that works in social media, like that's your world essentially.
It's a difficult one because I can understand where boxing purists are coming from in the giving boxing licenses to sort of celebrities and sticking them on boxing professional cards is a slippery slope potentially. But what I will say is that those guys like put their bodies through hell, Logan and JJ, to get to that point. Did serious training, professional levels of training, and kind of earned the right to some respect to be on the card. They're obviously not the most technical boxers, and you can see that in the fight. But having said that, you've just got to take your hats off to them for the commitment they showed. So I think at the end of it, everybody was kind of like, you know what, that was maybe not the best fight, but it was pretty entertaining. Delivered a lot of eyeballs for the sport that wouldn't have watched the sport otherwise. And overall, it was a success. So I don't think I have any negatives to say about that. And like, fingers crossed, we get to see another version of it, be it Jake versus KSI in the future. But equally, if it's going to be a thing, I think they have to put themselves through the level that JJ and Logan did, because those boys were in serious shape in the build-up to that fight.
Just sorry to button on you again, Chris. I've got a few lined up.
No, go on, please.
It's fine.
It's all good.
What are those two guys like? You know, obviously you would have interacted with them in and around that experience. And you interacted with KSI prior to that anyway. I think. What are those two guys like, you know, as people when you came across them? I
mean, I couldn't attest to them too much as people because I've met them very briefly, to be honest with you. JJ I've met on like 2 or 3 occasions now, but he probably wouldn't remember me. I'm just another press guy to him. But yeah, he came across as a lovely guy, very down to earth, very sort of relaxed. And I think that was the persona he was definitely trying to put forward in fight week, wasn't it? That sort of calm, collected, knew what he was going to do when he got in the ring, and that bared fruit. So that was, he was a very nice guy. Logan, I never really spoke to, never really managed to chat to. Seemed like he always had about 200 people around him. Logan, that's what I will say. He had a massive entourage. Wherever he went, there was about 100 people following him. So I don't know really about his personality or what he's like as a guy. But yeah, JJ was absolutely lovely.
Yeah. So talk sort of on that tangent a little bit. In terms of YouTube itself, how much of it do you take in and sort of model yourself almost, or who do you look up to in the YouTube space?
Oh wow. Do you know what? I don't watch a lot of YouTube. Like, I have very specific channels I watch very regularly. So David Dobrik, I watch a lot of. He's obviously not done a video in like 10 months now since the pandemic started. My favorite channel on YouTube, Nelk. I don't know if you guys have seen it. NELK. Amazing channel. It's kind of like American college fraternity channel. It's just them like drinking loads of beer and pulling pranks. Although last week they got to meet the president, which was pretty hilarious because they've kind of been trolling Trump rallies recently and then managed to get it on Air Force One. But it's a channel, that's probably my favorite channel to watch, even though they are quite close to the line and overstep it quite often. But yeah, I don't watch an awful lot of sort of football YouTube. In general, I just watch football on mainstream TV. I watch Monday Night Football, the best in the business, Cara and Neville. Absolutely sensational. Dave Jones, the best in the business as well, hosting it. So I take more inspiration from mainstream media than YouTube, to be honest with you. YouTube is just for entertainment for me.
And you know, you mentioned Cara and Neville there. How much interaction do you have with those guys, and what are they like?
I've never met. I have met them actually. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I have met them. Yeah, they're both really nice. Obviously, very hardworking. So, like, I think my only meeting of Gary Neville, as far as I can remember, was Manchester City 0, Man United 0, and I watched a proportion of the game in the gantry with him. Very passionate Manchester United fan. Obviously, really, really loves the club and loves everything about them. But works super hard behind the scenes, getting his facts in order and his opinions ready and stuff like that, which is a really interesting watch. And I think it bears fruit, doesn't it? You can tell that Gary and Jamie are better researched than the most pundits in football. That's why their show's so popular. That's why they're so popular and why they're such good listens. And Jamie Carragher, I did I do a video with Jamie? I think I did Mr. and Mrs. with Jamie Carragher and Jamie Redknapp potentially in the past. I can't remember who it was, Cara. But either way, I've met him a few times at Sky. Yeah, very nice guy. Again, works incredibly hard on himself, which is why he's improved so much over the years and now is up there with Gary as the best pundit on TV.
Yeah. So coming towards the end now, Joe, what does the future hold for you? Obviously, you're still young. You've got plenty of time to go. So what are your plans and goals for the upcoming future?
Plan number one is post-lockdown is like get to as many raves as possible. I can't emphasize that enough. I haven't been on a night out in so long. I need to. That's like my initial thought. That's the one thing I've missed more than anything. Obviously, with football coming back now, the rave scene, just miss it. But in terms of career progression, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of taking it year by year, working as hard as I can. And just my kind of ethos is never say no to an opportunity. So I always try and do things and try and be on camera as much as possible. And then hopefully when the Euros rolls around, fingers crossed, do some work around the Euros, and then we'll take it from there. And
this is sort of a two-answer question, really. So for yourself, if you can meet your younger self just breaking into the industry now, what would you advise yourself? And for people who are currently trying to break into it now, what would your advice be?
My advice to my younger self, if I was sat here looking at me now, I'd say stop with the ridiculous opinions for clickbait. That would be my number one bit of advice, because they'll come back to bite you, and numerous have, to be honest with you. Advice to younger people breaking into it would still be to learn to self-edit, learn to self-shoot, and get as much experience under your belt as possible, because experience always trumps education.
Yeah. Anything else from you, Haas?
I was going to say, do you want to squeeze your famous birthdays question in like you did with Zach?
Famous birthdays, right.
Can
I just bring this up? Has this been done before, Zach?
No, it hasn't.
No, it's a new thing.
Whenever I go, probably 3 months, Zach's bringing up his famous birthdays page. Right. I don't know why the guy is so keen to get his famous birthdays in there. Right. Like, we shouldn't even be on there. We should not even be on famousbirthdays.com, as we've got no right.
I want to see if you have a self-knowledge here, Joe. Okay, so
I won't.
from 1 to 100, where do you think you rank in terms of Joes on famous birthdays?
Well, I'm not going to be in the 100.
You are.
And famous Joes?
Yeah, you're in the top 100.
I'll take that. Oh, wow. 92.
No, incorrect. You're number 60, mate. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'll take that. 60 Joes in the world. Famous. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you're also 16th in terms of people born under the star sign Pisces as well, apparently.
Wow. I mean, that's arguably more impressive, because there's lots of famous people that are born in March.
There we go. Well, happy days. I'm sure you can go brag to Zach now, because you're actually higher than him technically a little bit, because you're 16th in Pisces, he's 23 in Zach's. So.
Okay, I'll take it. Zach's a less common name than Joe.
It is. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Joe, for taking the time out.
No worries.
For chatting to us. I'm sure you don't need it, but where are all the socials at?
Yeah, just come follow me at Joe Thomlinson or at Football Daily, or why not tune in Saturday Social every Saturday morning on Sky Sports 9:30.
9:30 in the morning. Well, I'm certainly not up by that time, so no chance.
Fair play. That's what the Sky Q's for, mate. Record it.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. Anything else from you, Mr. Kareem?
No, that's all for me. Just a massive thanks to Joe for coming on. I know you're a very busy guy, so thanks.
No worries, dude. Anytime.
Yeah, so this should be out in a couple of weeks from recording. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.